Variations is a disc of 20th and 21st century variations for solo piano. A set of variations is where a composer takes a theme or a melody and repeats it several times with modifications. It doesn't sound particularly inspiring, but I've chosen sets here that play with the form, transcend its limitations, and ultimately explode it from within. The first work on the disc is Szymanowski's Variations on a Polish Theme, written when he was still a very young man, a student at the Warsaw Conservatory. He took as his theme a Polish folk melody that he found in a compendium on Highland music. And you can really sense here that he was very passionate. It was a work of great emotional significance for him, and he really wears his heart on his sleeve. Polish folk music was to become a very important part of his work, and in later years he visited Zakopane in the south of Poland and heard the original of this melody, and he was shocked by how drastically it had been altered before it had found its way to his compendium. So the theme that you hear here is by no means authentic, but this sense of nostalgia and longing for his homeland is very much to the fore. The most striking variation is the eighth of Funeral March, and this was rescored for orchestra by the composer Roman Pallister and played in this form at Szymanowski's funeral some decades later. The programme spans an enormous range of emotion, and wit has a large part to play. There's a set of variations by John Adams called I Still Play, which is perhaps the most straightforward and simple on the disc. He takes a very lyrical waltz-like theme, and he plays with it in ways that continually subvert your expectations. The meter never quite settles, right up to the final phrase, which is more of a question than a conclusion. Humour is also to the fore in the Variations on a Theme by Franz Schubert by Helmut Lachenmann. Here he takes an écossaise by Schubert, which is a dance in triple time, characterised by rapid alterations of dynamic, so it changes very quickly from loud to soft. And he really refracts this and subverts it with a fair amount of irreverence to evoke a much more frenzied world. Elegy and mourning are significant strands in this programme. The Variations from the Golden Mountain by Birtwistle are a sparse and spare elegy with thunderous outbursts. The Copland Variations last less than 13 minutes, but it's an utterly monolithic and gargantuan work. When you listen to it, you have the sensation of being stripped down to your core and rebuilt from scratch. It's not the kind of music that you can have on in the background. It demands every ounce of your attention. I would say that grief finds its fullest expression here in the Variations by Hindemith. They were written in 1936, which is the year that his music was banned by the Nazis in Germany, and when he had to leave his post at the Berlin Academy. They're filled with nostalgia. There's a great deal of grief, searing grief, but there is also a tender consolation. In the third movement, there's a very heavily ornamented melodic line that sounds much like birdsong, and it's almost as if Hindemith is taking us from an earthly sphere to perhaps a more heavenly realm. Joy and celebration are also very important, both in terms of human emotion and experience, and also with the piano and its possibilities. Virtuosity has a large part to play here and is fully embodied in the final piece on the disc, the Chaconne by Gubaidulina. A chaconne is a Baroque dance where the bass line repeats and the voices above are varied, so it's not, strictly speaking, a set of variations, but it uses the same principle. There is a danger with a chaconne that it can be bitty and repetitious, but Gubaidulina manages to create this overarching phrase, and she grabs your attention at the very opening, and she doesn't let you down until the sonority of the very last note has dissipated. It's a real tour de force. This program took every ounce of strength that I possessed to record, and I really had to draw on the depths of my experience, both as a musician and as a human being, to bring it to life. As a whole, I would say the program is demanding, exhilarating,